we're really excited to be going to Cannes next week. It will be a year since we launched Kinective Media to the world. But yeah, I think there's sort of three or four buckets that we're excited about. I think this world of partnerships is going to be really, really important. So that's one. I think the value of, in this sort of broader commerce media space, the value of data and collaboration around data also is another area of big interest, not only for us, but we're hearing it across the ecosystem. Clearly, obviously, a lot of advertisers are there and all the brands. So excited to get in front of them and continue the story in terms of what we're up to and some of the new product innovations we've got and new partnerships. And then the fourth area is all things about Starlink. We've now formally launched Starlink. We've sort of talked about it over many months, and that just opens up a new world of enablement, which again I'll cover off in this conversation, but also allows for kind of real-time programmatic activation in the sky in front of our addressable audiences. And then the last area is around what we're doing in commerce media. I know we're now talking about commerce media, not just media networks. So it goes beyond advertising, and there's some really exciting innovations that we're talking about or will be talking about next week. So yeah, lots to cover.
So talk to me a little bit about the role of travel and specifically United in terms of the convergence of commerce and media.
Yeah. Well, again, a year in, I mean, we've learned a lot, but it was also very intentional when we launched that we delivered on three things. A, the scale of our audience and customers that we have. Was the world's biggest airline. We certainly have scale. Secondly, is the quality of our data. So both non-members and members of Mileage Plus. So that gives us that scale. They're real people. They're not bots. They fly with us. So that quality aspect is important. And the third area is perhaps unlike a lot of other players in retail, we have multiple screens to play with. So pre, during, and post travel. And we were very intentional, and this momentum has continued since we launched. Is I think the difference between sort of more classic retail and commerce, and certainly what we're in. Yes, we're an airline, so you would think by default we're just in the travel sector, but we're intentionally not. We play both brand and performance across multiple verticals, whether that's luxury, auto, finance, CPG. We've managed to kind of cover it all, and that was a really important intentional perspective as we scaled the business. And so that momentum continues, and we've got a great product roadmap that follows it. The other big announcement that we made last week was our new relationship with JetBlue, which is multifaceted. And what we're super excited to announce a year after we've launched Kinective Media is that JetBlue will be our first syndication partner, where we're deploying Kinective Media technology across JetBlue's technology digital channels, and will enable them to be another big domestic airline in the US and internationally, which on the same principles of what United has done, will just expand our audience reach to very, very meaningful numbers. So we're super excited about that relationship, which we'll be talking about at next week at Cannes, which is exciting.
So obviously you've made a lot of headway since launch. There's a lot of new deals and a lot of traction. Conceptually, how are you now looking at the onboard experience? It's not just a travel moment, but how are you seeing it as a meaningful media touch point for brands?
Yeah. Well, it's, and we all said this from the start, and Starlink becomes an enabler of this. We know exactly who's sitting in that seat. We know a lot about that individual. So it does become the most addressable screen out there. And I always joke, they're strapped in as well. So they're not jumping away at the coffee break to not miss ads. So that's point one. Point two is that average dwell time that people sit in that seat is over 3.5 hours. That's a lot of time. Now, clearly, they're there to either watch great content that we have, but again, Starlink becomes an enablement around what they can now do. and having been on the flight, and we'll talk about Starlink in more depth in a minute, but that enables a whole bunch of stuff. You can work smarter. You can do all your shopping. You'll be able to watch streaming, play games. It enables a whole bunch of stuff, and therefore, what it does, it takes as we work with brands, it goes just beyond a 30-second pre-roll or a display ad. We can get a lot deeper with brands and how they can enable a deeper interaction with that brand from, yes, being engaged with an ad and then actually going to execute and buy that product. So we then sort of have a full attribution. So we're super excited about, yes, advertising is still a mainstay, but how that evolves into kind of genuine e-commerce and all the stuff that we can do within flight, which is very exciting.
And so, talk to me a little bit about Starlink and what kinds of new experiences for consumers are going to be available.
Yeah, well, I was lucky enough. I've been playing around with Starlink in the lab for the last year, and I was on the inaugural media flight out of Chicago 2 weeks ago. And we always thought there would be a behavior change, but seeing it, and it's mind-blowingly fast. And in fact, our tagline is we are breaking the Wi-Fi barrier. So first and foremost, it's free to Mileage Plus members, so either sign in or sign up. But genuinely, the enablement, and this wasn't just about Starlink, it was what Starlink can enable the customers to do. Spotify, which is super, super exciting. So you'll be able to listen, watch audio and video with Spotify, which is a global first on seatback, which is super exciting. But it just enables a whole bunch of stuff in terms of gaming and shopping and streaming and a whole bunch of other stuff. So we're very excited, and it's having been there, and it was a special flight. It wasn't a commercial flight, but we had people streaming games live. We had some like technical hardware experts, trying to break it. We had people watching live sport. We had people calling their mums, which you won't be able to do. You'll be able to listen to your mother, but you won't be able to speak. But it was, it's extraordinary. So all the things that we take for granted on Earth, and you'll be able to do up in the sky at 35,000 feet at 600 miles an hour without any spotting or all the issues that everyone's dealt with for many, many years on Wi-Fi. And it's free, which is great.
That's terrific. And so, what does this all mean for the advertisers, and what kind of environment you're providing for them?
Yeah, well, we talk about, and we've got some really interesting sort of product launches back end of the year. So we talk about sort of commerce media, and really what that means. It's not just a catch-all for non-retail media. So we've talked about the dwell time, and this is almost a pre, during, and post. And if you think about when we go on vacation or you're on a business trip, you actually spend quite a lot of time either planning your journey or certainly when you're at the airport before. You might be lucky enough to be in a lounge or a club, or you're sitting at the gate. We've done a whole bunch of research where there's a lot of time where people are thinking about that. That's why there's shops at airports, right? So how we sort of join up the dots, either pre, during, and post travel on that e-commerce world of people being able to do all the things they can do on Earth and use that time advantageously is really, really important. So I'll give you some examples. So you could be in flight, you could be flying from Chicago to New York, and you haven't booked your restaurants, right? So how do you get inspired with great content? Great inspiration around what are the top 10 restaurants in New York, and then can I book it like now? Have I booked my ride share? No, I can do that now in flight. Maybe the flight's delayed by 30 minutes. I'll automatically update that booking. Or, hey, what are the top 10 shows going on this evening in Las Vegas? And is there seat availability? And can I book it now? So with inspirational around content that we have, and we have this great content called 3 Perfect Days, because we actually got rid of our in-flight magazine last September. We've now digitized that. So we've digitized that content in long and short form digital content for people to read. You can now watch short form video. You can now listen to podcasts around 3 Perfect Days in Las Vegas or in Paris or in Tokyo, which is all ad enabled. And then the other exciting thing that we're now working on is what we're doing with maps. Um, Interestingly, the in-flight map, is actually the most watched screen on any flight. So how do you enable that when you're flying over a particular city? How can you inspire to go, oh, what's Nook in Greenland like, which we happen to fly to? Now, and then you can click on, get inspired with some great content. In a nutshell, we're going to be able to put awesome content in front of people. They can choose whatever they wish, but they can also enable and interact and execute on whatever they want to do in flight, which is super exciting. Yes, enabled by Starlink, but it's all the partnerships and all the technology and data that we're going to sort of put together. So it's going to be a game-changing experience that we've mapped out.